Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we will continue our lesson to topic 7, general insurance. This visual represents the entire landscape of general insurance as a connected city. Each zone corresponds to a cluster of products that share a common protective purpose. On the upper left, you can see property and dwellings, which covers fire, householder, and house owner policies. The upper right shows motor and transit, encompassing motor insurance and the various equipment and transit covers. The lower left is commercial and engineering, housing contractors all risk, erection all risk, machinery breakdown, and bond underwriting. The center shows people and liability, including personal accident, hospitalization, employer's liability, workman's compensation, fidelity guarantee, and public liability. Finally, the lower right represents marine and trade, covering marine cargo and marine hull. What I want you to appreciate from this visual is that no client exists in isolation. A factory owner, for example, will need coverage from at least 3 or 4 of these zones simultaneously. Fire insurance for the building, machinery breakdown for the plant, workmen's compensation for the employees, and public liability for visitors to the premises. The financial planner's role is to map the client's entire exposure profile and ensure no zone is left unprotected. This slide presents the three foundational principles of general insurance. At the center is the core principle of indemnity, which the source text describes as placing the insured in the same financial position they occupied before the loss occurred, provided the sum insured is adequate. The critical implication is that an insured person cannot profit from a general insurance policy. They are only entitled to recover the actual amount of their loss and nothing more. Flanking indemnity are two subsidiary principles that enforce this equilibrium. On the left, contribution addresses the scenario where an insured has taken out more than one policy on the same risk. An insured who holds two policies cannot recover more than the total loss, even though two insurers are involved. If one insurer pays the full claim, that insurer can call upon the second insurer to bear a rateable share. This prevents unjust enrichment. On the right, subrogation gives an insurer who has settled a claim the right to step into the shoes of the insured and pursue any third party who caused the loss. The key conditions are that the insurer must first have indemnified the insured before exercising this right, and the insured has a duty to assist the insurer and must not prejudice the insurer's position against the third party. A crucial distinction to remember for your examinations is that subrogation has no application in non-indemnity policies such as life insurance. This slide introduces a critical distinction that students must internalize: the difference between a direct loss and an indirect or consequential loss. A direct loss is the financial impact that results immediately from the physical damage, destruction, or theft of property. If a house is destroyed by fire, the cost to rebuild or repair the physical structure is the direct loss. An indirect or consequential loss, by contrast, is the downstream financial impact that flows from the direct event. Using the same fire example, the homeowner who must now rent temporary accommodation while the house is being rebuilt incurs a consequential loss in the form of rental payments. For a business owner, the consequential loss could include lost revenue, ongoing salary obligations, and increased operating costs during the period of interruption. Why does this distinction matter so much for financial planners? Because a standard fire policy covers only direct losses. Consequential losses are explicitly excluded unless the insured purchases a separate fire consequential loss policy. Many clients assume that their fire insurance will cover everything, and it falls to the financial planner to explain this gap and recommend the appropriate additional coverage. We will see this pairing repeatedly. There is a material damage policy for the direct loss and a separate consequential loss policy for the indirect impact. Fire insurance is the simplest and most fundamental form of property coverage. The standard fire policy covers loss or damage caused by fire, lightning, and explosion due to domestic boilers or gas used for domestic purposes. It also extends to damage caused by water or extinguishing agents used to put out the fire, damage resulting from gaining access to the fire, and smoke damage caused by fire. These are the basic perils and no additional premium is required for them. The left side of the slide highlights the principal exclusions. Loss by theft during or after a fire is excluded, and is arson committed by the insured. Building collapse, subterranean fire, war and civil commotion, and radioactive contamination are all excluded from the standard policy. Critically, all forms of indirect or consequential loss are excluded. However, rental income can be included if specifically insured. The right side of the slide shows the additional premium loadings for extending cover to special perils. These are examinable figures. Flood carries a loading of 0.086%, which is among the highest because Malaysia is flood prone. Subsidence and landship is 0.081%. Riot, strike and malicious damage is 0.01% for residential properties and 0.014% for non-residential. Aircraft damage is just 0.005%, reflecting its low probability. Full theft cover for householder policies is 0.25%. Electrical installation clause is 0.056%. Each of these is changed as a percentage of the sum insured and is payable on top of the basic fire premium. The construction classification system directly affects how fire risk is underwritten and rated. Class 1A represents the lowest fire risk. buildings with hard roofs and walls of brick or concrete not less than 100 millimeters thick. Class 1B is similar but allows walls that are partly brick or concrete and partly non-combustible materials, or wholly of mixed materials such as cement board that has been plastered with cement or has cemented finishing. Class 2 buildings have had roofs but walls that are partly brick or concrete and partly wood or other combustible materials, with the important condition that the combustible portion must not exceed 50% of the total wall area. This class also covers buildings with walls of asbestos sheeting, corrugated iron or galvanized iron, as well as open-sided sheds with non-combustible columns. Class 3 is the catch-all category for any construction that does not conform to Class 1A, 1B, or Class 2. These buildings present the highest fire risk and will attract the highest premiums. For the householders policy specifically, buildings other than Class 1 construction are declined risk. Fire consequential loss insurance is designed to protect a business earning capacity following physical damage. Covered under a fire or material damage policy. This is a crucial point. Consequential loss coverage can only be purchased together with fire material damage insurance. It cannot exist as a standalone policy. The coverage compensates for loss of gross profit following a reduction in turnover and for increases in the cost of working resulting from the fire event, all subject to an indemnity period. This slide shows two methods for calculating gross profit. The difference basis takes the sum of turnover plus closing stock and work in progress and subtracts the sum of opening stock and work in progress plus specified working expenses. The additional basis takes net profit and adds insured standing charges such as salaries, wages, EPF contributions, and bonuses. The increase in cost of working refers to expenses necessarily and reasonably incurred for the sole purpose of avoiding and diminishing the reduction in turnover subject to the limit stated in the policy. The extensions available include specified supplier extension, unspecified supplier extension, prevention of access extension, public utilities extension, and specified customer extension. These are important because they extend protection beyond the insured's own premises. For example, if a key supplier's factory burns down and the insured cannot obtain raw materials, the specified supply extension would provide coverage for the resulting loss of profit. This slide draws a clear distinction between two policies that students often confuse. The homeowner's policy covers the building of a private dwelling and flat, including domestic offices, stables, garages, outbuildings, landlord's fixtures and fittings, walls, gates, and fences. The householder's policy covers the contents within the private dwelling. In practice, a homeowner should purchase both policies to achieve comprehensive protection. The homeowner's policy is structured in two sections. Section 1 provides coverage for loss or damage from 9 categories of peril, including fire, lightning, thunderbolt, subterranean fire, explosion, aircraft damage, impact damage from road vehicles, bursting or overflowing of domestic water tanks, theft by forcible and violent entry, hurricane, cyclone, typhoon, windstorm, earthquake, and volcanic eruption, and flood caused by earthquake, volcanic eruption, or tropical storms. Section 2 covers loss of rent and public liability up to 50,000 ringgit. For the householder's policy, several underwriting rules apply. Any single item valued at more than 3%, any single item valued at more than 5% of the total sum insured must be declared separately. All household goods must be insured, not just selected items. Jewellery or personal effects valued at more than 3,000 ringgit require a valuation certificate or official purchase receipt. The total value of gold, jewellery and furs must not exceed 1/3 of the total sum insured. The underwriting rule at the bottom of the slide is also important. Unoccupancy exceeding 90 days attracts an additional loading of 0.05% per month on the total sum insured. Decline risks include buildings other than Class 1 construction. For the householder policy, buildings on slopes or hilltops or in flood-prone areas. Contents with large amounts of jewellery, antiques or artwork, and buildings that are not occupied. Motor insurance in Malaysia is structured as a progressive hierarchy of 4 coverage tiers. And this matrix clearly illustrates what each tier does and does not cover. The Act cover is the absolute minimum required by the Road Traffic Ordinance. It covers death or bodily injury to third parties only, and the amount of coverage is unlimited. However, it does not cover damage to third-party property, damage to or loss of the insured's own vehicle, or injuries sustained by the insured driver. The third party cover adds protection for damage to third-party property on top of the Act cover. The third party fire and theft (TPFT) cover takes this further by adding indemnity against theft of the insured's vehicle and damage to the vehicle by fire. The comprehensive cover is the widest form and is the one that the MFPC, as you can see from the module, explicitly recommends. It includes everything in the TPFT tier plus coverage for any physical damage to the insured vehicle and its spare parts following accidental collision, and other specified perils. This slide maps the premium calculation engine for each class of motor vehicle. For private motor cars, the comprehensive premium is calculated based on the sum insured and the cubic capacity of the car. For commercial vehicles, the calculation uses the sum insured, tonnage, and business permit category A to C. For motorcycles, it is based on the cubic capacity, sum insured, and whether the policy covers a single rider or riders or commercial usage. For third-party premiums across all classes, the sum insured is not needed. Only the vehicle specifications are required. The minimum premium per policy is RM50 for private cars and commercial vehicles and RM20 for motorcycles. These minimums apply after deducting the no-claim discount but before allowing commission or brokerage. Motor business in Malaysia operates strictly on a cash before cover basis, and the e-cover note system facilitates this. The no-claim discount is an important mechanism that rewards claims-free driving. Written evidence of entitlement from the previous insurer must be obtained before granting NCD. The NCD applies only to the basic premium, including any loadings imposed. All extra benefits or extensions are not eligible for NCD. The NCD belongs strictly to the policyholder and must never be credited to an agent's account. NCD letters must be issued in duplicate to prevent forgery, and there have been documented instances of fraudulent NCD letters in the Malaysian market. The extensions shown on the slide are windscreen cover at 15% of windscreen value, passenger liability cover at 25% of the third-party premium, with an additional RM10 per passenger beyond the fourth, and strike, riot, and civil commotion cover at 0.3% of the sum insured. Medical expenses and personal accident cover, which are excluded from the basic policy, can be added for RM20 per person. Burglary insurance covers two specific scenarios: loss by theft following actual, forcible, and violent breaking into or out of a building, and damage to the insured property or premises resulting from the theft. The requirement for forcible and violent entry is fundamental. A full theft extension which covers access using original, duplicate, or skeleton keys is available upon request and payment of additional premium. But the source text emphasizes that this extension should be given very selectively and only to insureds whose integrity is not in doubt. The rating of burglary insurance uses two bases. The full value basis is adopted when there is a possibility that the entire insured property could be stolen in a single event, and the rate is applied to the full value. These policies are subject to average, meaning underinsurance will proportionally reduce the claim payout. The first loss basis, however, is used when it is practically impossible for all property to be stolen at once. The insured estimates the maximum potential loss from any single event, and the insurer's liability is limited to that first loss value, which must be at least 10% of the total value. Average still applies if the total value is under-declared. The average formula shown on the slide is a standard exam calculation. There is sum insured divided by actual value multiplied by the loss. For example, if the sum insured is 10,000 ringgit, actual value is 20,000 ringgit, and the loss is 5,000, the claim payment will be 2,500 ringgit. The example can be referred from the module. Money insurance protects banks, industrial or business establishments against loss of money in transit and money in premises. Money in transit covers loss from any cause while money is being moved between banks and the insured. Is being moved between banks and the insured's premises or contract sites. Money in premises covers loss by theft evidenced by visible marks from a locked safe or strong room or by hold up. The definition of money is broad, encompassing cash, bank notes, checks, money orders, postal orders, bills of exchange and postage, or other stamps with monetary value. This slide combines two distinct products, Fidelity Guarantee Insurance and All Risk Insurance. Fidelity Guarantee policies indemnify employers against loss of monies, negotiable instruments or goods resulting from the dishonesty of their employees. From the module, there are examples of dishonesty as theft, misappropriation of funds, false conversion of stock, and forgery. 3 conditions must be satisfied for a claim. The act of fraud or dishonesty must have been committed during the period of insurance, during the uninterrupted continuance of the employee's employment, and in connection with the employee's occupation and duties. The act must be also discovered during the insurance period or within 6 months after termination of the policy or within 6 months after termination of the employee's employment, whichever occurs first. The 3 forms of fidelity guarantee cover all clearly illustrated. Name basis covers individually named persons for a specific amount. Position basis covers named positions such as cashier, company secretary, or storekeeper without naming individual employees, which avoids the need to amend the policy when staff changes occur. Blanket basis covers every employee, irrespective of position, providing indemnity up to a stated amount for any one loss and in the aggregate during any one period of insurance. All risk insurance sits at the bottom of the slide. It is designed for highly portable equipment such as notebooks, cameras, walkie-talkies, handphones, and personal effects. Despite its name, it covers only three specific categories of peril, which are fire, external explosion, self-ignition or lightning, burglary, housebreaking, or theft by forcible and violent entry, and accidental damage by external means. The distinction between these two products is simple but essential. Machine and equipment insurance covers equipment that is immobile or static, photocopying machines, replicating machines, generators, offset machines, telephone switchboards, and similar installations. The three areas of coverage are fire, theft, and accidental damage due to external causes only. Equipment insurance, by contrast, is restricted to mechanically propelled vehicles and equipment that are not licensed for use on public roads. This includes cranes, tractors, forklifts, excavators, and bulldozers. The policy indemnifies the insured against direct physical loss or damage arising from accidental collision or overturning, accidental collision consequent upon mechanical breakdown or wear and tear and fire, external explosion, self-ignition, lightning, burglary, or theft. The red line between these two products is the licensing boundary. Any vehicle licensed for use on public roads must be insured under a motor policy, not under equipment insurance. A forklift operating exclusively within a warehouse compound would fall under equipment insurance, but the moment it is licensed to drive on public roads, it must shift to motor insurance. Machinery breakdown insurance is specially designed for machines and mechanical installations of all types, from the smallest electric motor to the steam turbo alternators used in power plants. The key characteristic of this policy is that it covers sudden and unforeseen internal damage. This is what distinguishes it from fire insurance, which covers external perils. The covered causes include faulty material, design, construction or erection, vibration, maladjustment and malalignment, defective lubrication, loosening of parts, abnormal stress, molecular fatigue, self-heating and centrifugal force, excessive electrical pressure, failure of insulation, short circuits, open circuits, or failure of connected machinery or protective devices, and so on. The companion policy machinery breakdown loss of profits indemnifies the insured against loss of gross profit arising directly from the interruption of or interference with production following a machinery breakdown event covered under the machinery breakdown policy. The information required for underwriting includes the gross profit to be insured, the time access, the indemnity period, and the duration required to replace parts in the event of a breakdown. This mirrors the structure of fire consequential loss insurance, where the material damage policy and the loss of profits policy operate in tandem. Contractors' all-risk insurance offers comprehensive protection for the contract works being performed, construction plant and equipment, construction machinery and third-party claims for property damage or bodily injury arising in connection with the execution of a project. The scope of cover is broad. Fire, lightning, explosion, natural hazards, impact and aircraft damage, flood, subsidence, landslide, theft and burglary, and so on. Erection all risk insurance specifically covers the installation, testing and commissioning of plant and machinery. Its scope includes all the perils covered by contractors all risk, plus additional risk particularly relevant to erection work. For example, short circuiting, excess voltage, excess pressure or vacuum, and tearing part on account of centrifugal force. The principal exclusions are shared between both policies and include war, civil commotion, willful acts or negligence by the insured, nuclear contamination, consequential losses such as penalties or delays, mechanical or electrical breakdown of construction machinery, and so on. The cost of rectifying faulty design is also excluded. For contractors all risk or CAR underwriting, the minimum information required includes the contractors and principals' names, working experience, work site, nature and scope of contract, breakdown of contract value, third-party liability limit, period of insurance, past claims experience, letter of award or tender document, site plan, and so on. Bond underwriting involves a three-party relationship, which is why the slide presents it as a triangle. The three parties are the principal, also called employer or beneficiary, who is the party to whom the bond is given, the contractor, who is the party responsible for fulfilling the contractual obligation, and the guarantor, who guarantees the contractor's obligation under the building contract. A bond is a contract that normally takes the form of either a bank guarantee or an insurance guarantee. The guarantor accepts responsibility for the performance of a contractual obligation in the event of the contractor's default. The three common types of bond in the construction industry are the tender bond, the performance bond, and the advance payment bond. The tender bond guarantees that the contractor who is awarded the contract will enter into the contract at the terms submitted. If the contractor cannot maintain the quotation, the bond is liquidated and the guarantor indemnifies the principal of damages up to the bond amount. The performance bond ensures that the contractor fulfills the contractual obligations within the specified period or in accordance with the contract specifications. If the contractor fails to complete within the specified period and no extension is allowed, the bond is liquidated. The advance payment bond guarantees that any advance payment made to the contractor is invested in the pre-financing aspects of the contract. A public liability policy indemnifies the insured in respect of their legal liability to third parties for death, bodily injury, and loss of or damage to property, where such events occur in connection with the conduct of the insured's business. The scope of cover includes all sums the insured becomes legally liable to pay as compensation for accidental bodily injury or accidental property damage caused on or about the insured's premises in connection with the business, as well as all costs and expenses of litigation recovered from the insured by claimants or incurred with the insurer's written consent. The key extensions shown on the slide include fire and explosion, food and drink poisoning, social and sports activities, first aid facilities, temporary visit overseas, plant and machinery, work-away risk, non-owned vehicle liability, loading and unloading, employees' effects, gas effects, car park liability, indemnity to directors and employees, environmental pollution and contamination exclusion, neon signs and signboards, pedal cycle, lift, cross liability, tenants liability, innkeepers liability, and the industries seepage, pollution, and contamination exclusion. This slide presents two policies that protect employees but operate on fundamentally different legal bases. Workmen's compensation insurance is a statutory obligation under the Workmen's Compensation Ordinance 1952. It provides death or injury benefits for employees classified as workmen, those performing manual labor or earning monthly wages not exceeding 2,000 ringgit. It operates on a strict liability basis, meaning the employer is liable regardless of fault or negligence. However, SOCSO members are exempted from this requirement under the Employees Security Social Act 1969. Other categories exempt from the definition of workmen include non-manual workers earning above 2,000 ringgit per month, casual workers, domestic servants, members of the armed and police forces, and family members of the employer who live with them. When common law coverage is effected, the policy will also indemnify the employer if sued by employees for negligence. Employers' liability insurance fills the gap for those employees not protected by workmen's compensation or SOCSO. It operates on a negligence basis. The employee must prove that the employer was at fault. Liability can arise from the employer's personal negligence, failure to provide safe plant, failure to provide a safe workplace, failure to engage competent employees, or breach of a statutory safety duty. The sum insured is based on estimated annual wages. Additional common law liability above 1 million ringgit attracts surcharges of 5 to 10% for coverage up to 3 million ringgit and 5 to 25% for coverage up to 5 million ringgit. Personal accident insurance is a supplement to life insurance that provides protection against death or disability caused solely by violent, accidental, external, and visible means. It also covers unprovoked murder or assault, hijacking, food poisoning, strike, riot, civil commotion, and natural perils such as earthquake, volcanic eruption, tidal waves, flood, and lightning. Coverage operates 24 hours a day with worldwide geographical limits, and air travel as a passenger on scheduled flights is automatically covered. The benefit structure follows a tiered system. Death pays 100% of the capital sum insured. Permanent total disablement pays a percentage of the capital sum based on the nature of the injury. Temporary total disablement pays weekly benefits not exceeding 75% of weekly earnings, subject to a maximum of 104 weeks. Temporary partial disablement pays weekly benefits not exceeding 50% of the temporary total disablement benefit, also subject to a maximum of 104 weeks. The aggregate cap is a critical concept. The total of all percentage payable in respect of any one accident to any one insured person must not exceed 100%. Once 100% has been paid, all insurance under the policy immediately ceases for that person. Unlike general insurance, personal accident is not a contract of indemnity. The amount payable is fixed regardless of compensation recoverable from any other policy except for medical expenses, which are reimbursed based on actual medical bills. Hospitalization schemes provide reimbursement of hospital charges, surgical fees, and medical expenses arising from hospital confinement due to sickness, disease, or accidental injury. Coverage includes daily room and board, ICU, hospital services, and so on. These schemes offer 24-hour worldwide protection and can be purchased individually or as a group scheme under employee benefits. Marine cargo insurance provides coverage to goods in transit against losses or damages incidental to the marine adventure. The risks covered are extensive: fire, explosion, vessel stranding, grounding, sinking, and so on. The sum insured for marine cargo is based on an agreed valuation, typically the invoice value of the goods plus insurance cost plus shipping cost. Policies can be issued as single shipment policies covering one voyage or as open policies that provide continuous automatic coverage for all shipments described in the policy until cancelled, which is suitable for merchants engaged in regular trade. The sales contract terms determine who is obligated to arrange insurance. Under FOB or free on board, the seller places goods on board at their own expense and is responsible for loss until goods are on board, after which risk transfers to the buyer. Under C&F or cost and freight, the seller pays freight to the port of discharge but does not include insurance. The buyer must arrange insurance. Under CIF, cost, insurance and freight, the seller is responsible for all costs including insurance to the final destination, typically at the CIF price plus 10% to cover incidental expenses or import duty. Marine hull insurance covers the vessel itself against listed perils, including perils of the sea, such as heavy weather striking submerged objects. Also, fire, explosions, piracy, and contact with dock or harbour installations. The Inch Mary clause extends cover to loss caused by bursting of boilers, breakage of shafts, latent defects in machinery or hull, negligence of master, officers, crew or pilots, and accidents in loading, discharging or shifting cargo or fuel. Extensions for war risks and strikes are available at additional premium. This concluding slide brings together all 22 general insurance products into a single integrated view, reinforcing the ecosystem concept introduced at the beginning of the session. The visual makes an important pedagogical point. These 22 products are not isolated instruments, but interconnected components of a comprehensive risk management strategy. A competent financial planner must be able to assess a client's full risk profile and construct a protection portfolio that spans all 5 zones of risk. You will notice that this slide also displays several product labels that extend beyond the 22 products covered in this chapter. These include cyber insurance, professional indemnity, aviation, directors and officers, and so on. These additional products are shown for context only to give you a sense of the broader general insurance market. However, you should focus only on the 22 products explicitly covered in this chapter 7. The closing message of the chapter is captured at the bottom of the slide. That is by applying the principle of indemnity through these 22 structured products across 5 zones of risk. No financial vulnerability is left unmitigated. That is the aspiration of a well-constructed general insurance program. And it is the standard to which you as a financial planners should hold yourselves.